Chapter 72. This gentleman's card is the custom card of the Su family. We only recognize the card and not the person. Do you think you can compare with the Su family? A look of contempt flashed in the bank manager's eyes. The words of the bank manager made Li Dongmai stunned for a moment, and everyone around them exclaimed. You must know that the Su family is the richest man in Horendal. No wonder the staff member changed his attitude when he saw the card in David's hand. With the Su family's card, let alone come to the bank to withdraw money in person, as long as a phone call is made, the bank will send someone to deliver the money in person. Customers like this are all the targets of major banks. And when Li Dongmai's boyfriend heard that David was holding a custom card from the Su family, his face instantly turned pale. If David really had something to do with the Su family, with just one sentence, his small company would soon go bankrupt. No, impossible, how could he have a custom card from the Su family? He must have stolen it, or maybe he picked it up. It's impossible for him to have a relationship with the Su family. Li Dongmai didn't believe it. David was just an ordinary person who couldn't be in the ordinary. He just got out of prison. How could he be involved with the Su family? Seeing that Li Dongmai was still shouting, the bank manager's face turned cold. Security guard, blast them out for me. Soon, 2 security guards came over and chased Li Dongmai out, and Li Dongmai's boyfriend was also chased out. What's going on here? What's your classmate's relationship with the Su family? Li Dongmai's boyfriend asked worriedly. I haven't heard that he has something to do with the Su family. If he has something to do with the Su family, he won't go to jail. It's only been a few days since he came out. How could he have something to do with the Su family? I think he must have picked up the bank card. Yes, this bank manager is a jerk. Li Dongmai said angrily. Okay, don't care if he picked it up or not, let's go. Li Dongmai's boyfriend doesn't want to be entangled. If David is really related to the Su family, then he will be out of luck. Li Dongmai and her fat-headed boyfriend had just walked out of the bank. They had been waiting outside for David's guys to see them, and they immediately greeted them. Boss Chu, what a coincidence, I didn't expect to meet here. The guy with the gold chain smiled and said. It turned out to be Gangzi, what are you doing here? Li Dongmai's boyfriend asked. There's a guy who owes us money, and we're not waiting for him to withdraw it. Gangzi said lightly. Oh, then wait, I still have something to do, and have time to drink together. After Li Dongmai's boyfriend finished speaking, he pulled Li Dongmai and wanted to leave. After all, these people are not good people, and he doesn't want to have too many intersections with these people. But who knew that Li Dongmai did not move, but asked in surprise, is the person who owes you money called David? David. Gangzi was stunned, but quickly reacted. Yes, it seems that his name is David Chen, and he owes us 1.3 million. When Li Dongmai heard this, she was so happy that she almost jumped up. I said, why did David have to withdraw 1.3 million today? It turned out that he owed money to others and was trapped in it. Li Dongmai sneered, and then said to the Gangzi, why does he owe you all money? Gangzi didn't answer Li Dongmai, but looked at Boss Chu on the other side. That Boss Chu smiled. This is my girlfriend. When Gangzi heard it, he immediately smiled. Since it's Boss Chu's girlfriend, I won't hide it from you. It's a woman who borrowed usury from us. It's not that he owes us what this kid owes us. It turned out to be a usury loan, then you can ask for more interest. David has 10 million in his card. Li Dongmai whispered to the Gangzi. Chapter 73. 10 million. Gangzi was stunned, and then his face flashed with joy. Does he really have 10 million? Look at that kid, he doesn't look like a rich man. Li Dongmai hurriedly explained. What are you doing to deceive you? He said it himself in the bank just now. After a while, he can actually withdraw 1.3 million. Doesn't that prove that he really has money in his card? Makes sense. Gangzi nodded. Okay, I still have something to do, let's go quickly. Boss Chu pulled Li Dongmai hard. What are you afraid of? Let's watch here for a while, wait for David to come out, and then let's go. I want to see if David really has 10 million. Li Dongmai threw it away. She didn't want to leave, she still wanted to see David's embarrassment for a while. Boss Chu had no choice but to stand by and wait. 10 minutes later, David came out with a big bag full of cash. Seeing David come out with a big bag in his hand, Gangzi brought someone to greet him immediately. Seeing this, Li Dongmai also followed. She wanted to see if David really took out the money. When David saw that Li Dongmai didn't leave, he was slightly taken aback, but he didn't care. "Boy, where's the money?" Gangzi asked David. David threw the bag in his hand to the ground, and all the white bills in the bag were exposed. Seeing so much money, Gangzi's little brother's eyes are red. Then Li Dongmai was also a little surprised. 1.3 million, a lot of money, it's all here. David said lightly. Gangzi's younger brother hurriedly wanted to collect the money, but was stopped by that Gangzi. Boy, 1.3 million is probably not enough. Although Gangzi also wanted to take the money, but after knowing that David had 10 million, he wanted to extort more. What do you mean? David frowned. It doesn't make any sense. I just miscalculated the interest, and now it costs 2 million with the principal and interest. The corner of Gangzi's mouth raised slightly. David's face turned gloomy, and there was a bit of killing intent in his eyes. David, don't you have 10 million? 2 million is nothing, just go in and get some. Li Dongmai looked at David gloatingly and said. David ignored that Li Dongmai, but said to Gangzi, 1,300,000, if you don't want it, then I will save it again. David bent down to pick up the money and save it again. David bent down to pick up the money and save it again. Boy, this money is no longer yours, you can't move it. Gangzi lifted his foot and stepped on the purse. The two men on the side immediately reached out and grabbed David's shoulder, trying to control David. But the two of them were surprised to find that no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't shake David one bit. David's eyes flashed coldly. He stretched out his hand to grab the wrists of the two men, and squeezed gently. There was a sound of bones shattering, and the two men screamed in pain in an instant. People who dare to touch me, court death. When the Gangzi saw this, his face sank, and he kicked David. Kill him, kill him. Seeing this, Li Dongmai was extremely happy and shouted desperately. Bang! But who knows, just as the Gangzi lifted his foot, David also kicked it out, and the latter came first and kicked the Gangzi out. Immediately after David twisted his hands, the arms of the two men were suddenly twisted like a twist, and the painful wailing sound came directly from the mouths of the two. At this time, there was only one younger brother left, who was so frightened that he turned his head and ran away. These thugs have no loyalty at all. David slowly walked towards the Gangzi. At this time, Gangzi's face was pale, and his internal organs were like a knife twisted. Chapter 74. Seeing David walking towards him, Gangzi desperately wanted to get up, but the severe pain made him unable to stand up at all. David's kick was too heavy. What are you going to do? Behind me is the Chalong gang, and our gang leader is Feng Sihai. When Gangzi saw David's gloomy face, he was so frightened that he hurriedly moved out of the Chalong gang. Feng Sihai. David sneered. If you don't say that you belong to the Chalong gang, I can spare you, but now you have no chance. After David finished speaking, he stepped on it with one foot and directly crushed Gangzi's legs. Even the best medical skills could not be connected. What? The severe pain made Gangzi scream desperately, rolling on the ground constantly. Seeing David's ruthless action with a cold face, Li Dongmai was frightened, her body was trembling desperately, and her eyes were full of horror. As for Boss Chu, he was sweating profusely and his legs trembled slightly. David picked up the money on the ground, but just gave Li Dongmai a cold look, and with that one glance, Li Dongmai slumped on the ground in fright. Seeing Li Dongmai like that, David sneered, walked directly into the bank, and deposited the money again. When David returned home, he found that Wang Hanhan was still there with Wang Changfeng. Wang Hanhan saw David back, and hurriedly greeted him excitedly. Wang Hanhan just wanted to ask David concerned, but remembered that her mother was still there, so she didn't speak. David, where did you kid go? Hanhan has been waiting for you for a long time. You two go out for a walk and have a good chat. Barbara heard that David was back, so she reprimanded with some dissatisfaction. Mom, I've dealt with something. David explained. Aunt Chen, I followed brother David out for a walk. Wang Hanhan took David and walked out. She now wants to know how David handled the matter. Okay, let's go, I'm chatting with you, and then we'll have dinner at my house at noon. Barbara nodded happily. David left with Wang Hanhan, and Barbara said with a look of relief, He is Aunt Wang. I think these two children are a good match. I think the two of them are not bad either, ha ha ha. Wang Changfeng also laughed. Brother David, did those people embarrass you? Did they beat you? Walking out the door, Wang Hanhan asked eagerly. No, you don't have to worry about usury. It's all right. I will work hard in the future. I will go to the interview tomorrow. If I can, I will take you there. I will find a boyfriend in the future, and I will also keep my eyes open. David smiled slightly. Wang Hanhan nodded, looking at David with a bit of love, but David didn't look at her. David just regarded Wang Hanhan as his sister and had no other ideas, so he didn't want Wang Hanhan to misunderstand. Just when David followed Wang Hanhan downstairs in the community, suddenly the phone rang. It was Sonia. David, where have you been? Why are you not at the Pinerest Villa? I asked the security guard and said that you are all gone. Sonia went to Pine Bay to find David and found that David was not there. My parents are not used to living there, so I came back to live here. Although it is a bit shabby, there are many neighbors in the neighborhood, and they are all acquaintances. David lied because he didn't know why his parents left Pinerest Villa. Oh, Sonia snorted, obviously a little disappointed. After a few more chats, David hung up the phone. Brother David, is that your girlfriend? Wang Hanhan asked in a low voice after David hung up the phone. David was stunned, not knowing how to answer Wang Hanhan. Whether Sonia is his girlfriend now, David himself doesn't know. After all, the two have not officially established a relationship. Chapter 75. Seeing David stunned, Wang Hanhan smiled. If you don't want to say it, don't say it, it doesn't matter. David just smiled and didn't speak. After walking around with Wang Hanhan for a while, the two went back for lunch. At the same time, in Horrendal People's Hospital, Jordan was lying on the hospital bed with some boredom. He didn't want to live in the hospital, he wanted to go home, but his father Xiao Yan didn't agree and insisted on letting him recover in the hospital and go back. After all, with the financial resources of the Xiao family, even if Jordan stayed in the hospital for a year, it would not be a problem. Just when Jordan was bored, the door of the ward was pushed open, and Delia walked in with a lunch box. Brother Lei, I have good news for you. As soon as she entered the door, Delia said excitedly. What good news? Jordan asked. Then David was kicked out of the Pinerest Villa, and he might fall out with Sonia. Delia said excitedly. Why? Jordan was also overjoyed. If David is not protected by the Su family, then David will be nothing. He wants to kill David, just a matter of minutes. Why else? I guess that Sonia doesn't look down on David anymore. Presumably she is just teasing David. After all, the two are not in the same family, so how could Sonia like him? This morning, the security guard in Pinerest Villa said, David's parents left with their belongings and returned to the original community. Delia said. Ha ha ha, that's great. Jordan laughed loudly. When I feel better, let's see how I clean up that David. I want to make his life worse than death. The next morning, Sun Fuai called. He had asked Sun Xiaomeng to pick up David and go to Sun Xiaomeng's company together. When Chen Baoguo heard this, he hurriedly urged David to get up. David, you have to perform well today. This is a big company. If you really want to be able to work in it, and become a department manager in the future, you will be able to settle down in the future. Chen Baoguo exhorted David. Got it, Dad. David nodded, took a piece of clothing and put it on his body. You're an interview, how can you wear these clothes? Chen Baoguo frowned slightly. Wear a suit, be quick. Dad, I don't have a suit. David has no habit of wearing a suit at all, so he has never bought a suit. This is Barbara walking over and said to David. Nonsense, why not? You forgot to buy a suit for you 3 years ago, it was for your wedding, and the result. When Barbara said this, she hurriedly closed her mouth. Today, David's interview, she didn't want to talk about the past. Soon, David put on the suit he bought 3 years ago. Although it was quite old, it was still very new. After all, David had never worn it once. My son is handsome in a suit, come on. Chen Baoguo patted David on the shoulder. David, come over and let Mom touch. Barbara couldn't see it, so she could only touch it with both hands, feeling the way David was wearing a suit. At this time, downstairs in their house, a red BMW 3 Series parked at the gate of the community. In front of the car, Sun Xiaomeng looked at the relatively dilapidated community with some disgust. What kind of crappy place is this? It stinks to death, and it still lives in it. Sun Xiaomeng frowned and pinched her nose. I really don't know what Dad thinks, but he even asked me to pick him up. Sun Xiaomeng muttered, and looked at her watch from time to time. At this time, Sun Xiaomeng was wearing a professional attire and her fair legs were exposed, which attracted many people's attention, while Sun Xiaomeng was full of contempt. I simply despise the people who come out of this community. After waiting for a while, seeing David still not coming down, Sun Xiaomeng called Chen. Baoguo. Chapter 76. This is the call that Sun Xiaomeng asked for from Sun Fuai. After Chen Baoguo answered the phone, Sun Xiaomeng said rudely, "What time is it? How long do you want me to wait? I have no concept of time, don't. You forgot that it was your family who begged me, and you asked me to wait." After Sun Xiaomeng finished speaking, she hung up the phone without waiting for Chen Baoguo to speak. On the other side, after Chen Baoguo answered the phone, he was stunned for a moment, and his face was a little embarrassed. After all, at his age, he was beaten by a little girl from Sun Xiaomeng, and he felt very uncomfortable, but he thought that David had to rely on others. Chen Baoguo endured the job introduction. "Dad, who's calling?" David asked. "It's Xiaomeng, they're waiting downstairs. You go downstairs quickly, remember to say something nice to them." Chen Baoguo urged David to go downstairs. David went downstairs and saw that Sun Xiaomeng was waiting at the door, so he walked over and said apologetically, "I'm sorry, I kept you waiting." Seeing David, Sun Xiaomeng immediately said with a livid face, "If it wasn't for my dad's words, I wouldn't be too lazy to pick you up. Look at what you're wearing. Which dynasty's suit is too old-fashioned?" David frowned slightly, but still suppressed his anger and said, "I bought this 3 years ago, but I haven't worn it, it's still new." "The new one has AF.art, who still wears such an old-fashioned suit nowadays," Sun Xiaomeng pouted. Then why don't I go and change?" David said. "Forget it, what time is it, where's the time? Get in the car." Sun Xiaomeng opened the car door with a cold face and sat up directly. David wanted to sit in the co-pilot, but just opened the door, but was stopped by Sun Xiaomeng. "Sit in the back, can you also sit in the co-pilot?" David frowned, and then sat in the back, while that Sun Xiaomeng didn't wait for David to sit still, and rushed out with a kick of the accelerator. Fortunately, David has the time to recover, otherwise he will fall down. "Remember, you can't say you know me when you arrive at the company, and I don't care whether you can interview or not. It all depends on your own ability. Don't expect me to help you. I'm enough to introduce you to the company for an interview." On the way, Sun Xiaomeng followed David to talk a lot. The most important thing was to keep David from saying she knew her, because she was afraid that David would embarrass herself. "Okay." David just replied with a good word. Soon, the car arrived at Sun Xiaomeng's company, which is a collective company with a dozen floors in the entire office. Xinyu Daily Chemical Company, Limited. David raised his head, looked at the huge company name, and frowned slightly. This is the Su family's company. If David remembers correctly, this Xinyu Daily Chemical Company is also the Su family's business. He remembers that Sonia seems to have mentioned that this is Sonia's birthday, and the company established by Ruben for Sonia is regarded as birthday present. Sonia is the chairman and legal person of this company, but she does not participate in management and rarely comes to this company. Yes, this is the company of the Su family, the richest man in Horendal. It is a great honor to be able to work here. The various benefits are much better than other companies. Sun Xiaomeng said very proudly. David smiled and didn't say anything, but followed Sun Xiaomeng towards the company. As soon as I walked to the door, I saw a tall and handsome young man in a suit standing at the door. This person was Sun Xiaomeng's boyfriend Kui Ziyuan. "Xiaomeng, why did you come today?" After Kui Ziyuan saw Sun Xiaomeng, he immediately greeted him with a smile. "Don't mention it. My dad asked me to pick up that comrade in arms son, so later." Sun Xiaomeng pouted, a little not very happy. Chapter 77. Kui Ziyuan looked at David behind Sun Xiaomeng, a trace of contempt flashed in his eyes, and then he took Sun Xiaomeng's hand and walked forward. David could only follow behind, while Kui Ziyuan and Sun Xiaomeng whispered. "If you don't want him to work here, I'll just swipe him down during the interview later." Anyway, today is my interview. Kui Ziyuan said in a low voice. Don't be too obvious, or he will tell my dad, and my dad will kill me again. This guy has just come out of prison, so just reject him with this matter. Sun Xiaomeng also whispered in Kui Ziyuan's ear. They were afraid that David would hear it, but what they didn't know was that David had listened to every word of the conversation between the two. David's listening ability is not comparable to ordinary people. David in the back laughed coldly. David didn't care about whether he could be interviewed or not. He was just going through the motions. After following Sun Xiaomeng and the others to the sales list floor, Sun Xiaomeng pointed to Kui Ziyuan, and then said to David, "You go with him, remember what I told you, don't tell anyone you know each other here." David nodded, then followed Kui Ziyuan to the interview office. At this time, there were already many people waiting outside. These people were all here for the interview. After all, it was a group company with good benefits, so I wanted to come. There are many people, including some students from famous universities. Wait outside, someone will call you later. After Kui Ziyuan said a word, he walked directly into the office, while David found a chair and sat down to rest. Dude, are you also here for the interview? Sitting next to David, a young man with glasses asked David. Yeah, David nodded. What school did you graduate from? I know that many of the interviewees this time are graduates from famous universities. Look at the girl in the skirt. I heard that she is from Qingbei University, and the man with the backpack is from Haida University, graduated. Quote. With an envious expression, the young man followed David. I'm from Beijiang Business School. David smiled slightly. Student from Beijiang. The young man was stunned for a moment, then said in surprise, you dare to come to this company for an interview with your diploma. You are really courageous. Your university is not as good as my Lanxiang Technical School. The young man looked at David with a bit of pride. He finally found someone with a degree not as good as his own. David smiled and did not speak. At this time, a girl in work clothes came over and said to everyone in the interview, everyone hand over your resume to me, and I will call everyone in for the interview in order. When everyone heard it, they hurriedly handed in their carefully prepared resumes, only David sat motionless. Sir, where's your resume? Seeing that David didn't move, the girl asked. I didn't prepare a resume. David said lightly. Seeing that David did not prepare a resume for the interview, the girl's eyes flashed with surprise, but she still asked aloud, Sir, what is your name? I will call you later. My name is David Chen. David said. The girl nodded, turned and walked into the office. Everyone looked at David like an idiot. On this occasion, wearing an outdated suit and not preparing a resume, how could he possibly be interviewed? Only the young man who was talking to David just now looked at David a little strangely, and then suddenly whispered, Dude, are you related, and went through the back door. David was stunned for a moment, wondering why the young man asked such a question. You must have gone through the back door, otherwise why didn't you prepare your resume? And the person who brought you here just now, I see it as an executive in this company, no wonder you are so calm. The young man's face was a little flattering. With a smile, he took out a box of chewing gum from his pocket and handed it to David. David was not polite either, he took it directly and threw it into his mouth.
Please subscribe to follow the next more exciting chapters.